Hello, this is Jerry Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have free speech from Mild Gorilla, and that's a post of a Twitter. It's a Twitter screenshot, and Lindy Accarino, that's Elon's CEO of Twitter. She had a post that says X free speech, and then some guy replied, Donald Mule. He says cisgender, and then it comes up with a note: visibility limited. This post may violate X rules against hateful conduct. Learn more. And I said, I didn't comment on this one, but yeah, I definitely do think, a lot of people are very hypocritical when it comes to free speech, and that's something that's important to remember. I think all speech is free speech, but ultimately, what each private company wants to enforce and label as free speech is going to be their prerogative and not mine, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Argentina cuts interest rate to 70%, citing pronounced inflation slowdown from Reuters.com by Ninja Lover, and I said, Malay showing that libertarianism works. And that's my thoughts on that issue. I'm glad to see that they managed to slowing down the inflation by turning off the printers. Then we have operating in the red. Half of rural hospitals lose money as many cut services from KiflHealthNews.org by Baton 13, and they added nearly all these rural hospitals are in states that refuse to expand Medicaid using the Obamacare option. Does this mean that the market is indicating that rural hospital care is no longer viable without the government props? Should these hospitals just be shut down? And my thoughts there is, I guess, sometimes, it's hard to serve rural communities since there's so few people there and they're all living sporadically. But hopefully, I think maybe we could look for providing it for charity or find a way to make them profitable. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have many 2A advocates use the dumbest arguments, and it's embarrassing, from Clorox, and that's a cross post from the liberal gun owners subreddit. And yeah, I definitely don't think that's good. I think you should use whatever argument you want to defend the Second Amendment, and I don't think any gun should be taken away without the people's consent. And that's very important. Everyone has a right to a firearm, regardless of if they might use it to violate NAP or not, because everyone should have the right to self-defense, and a firearm is simply an extension of that. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have an eye-opening comment section about a union worker who wanted to work for one afternoon break from Ninja Lover, and that's a post from the IBEW subreddit, International Board for Electrical Workers, and they posted, works for a break, I'm now allegedly a worm, please advise. Hello, I'm a JW in the IBEW, but I've only been a member for about 2 years. I've worked through my last break today because I was on a roll and my productivity wanted to keep it going since our two previous breaks were stretched out for like about 10 minutes each. Some of my coworkers found out and got very upset. I understand they fought hard to have these breaks. I believe in the values of the union, but as far as I can tell, I don't steal any work from anyone. I don't see what harm I caused. I also didn't want make my CW keep working. That's why I'm working in a different local from my home local. And I said, and Ninja Lover added, posts like this will make me rethink my unwavering union support. It makes me waver. And I definitely would agree with that. Ultimately, I think unions, if people want to join a voluntary union, I think they should be able to. With that being said, like with government authoritarianism and corporate authoritarianism, union authoritarianism is also a thing, and that's very important to remember. And that's my thoughts there. I'm going to write that down because I think that's a good comment. Like with government authoritarianism and corporate authoritarianism, union authoritarianism, is also a thing. So we put, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have exclusive transgender map activists connected to pro-pedophile group influencing academic research from redux.info, and I posted that, and I said, at the rate we are going, I wouldn't be surprised if pedophiles, quote-unquote, maps, minor attracted persons, are at the point that transgender people are at currently by this time in the next decade in regards to normalization. The libertarian position is to normalize and stigmatize whatever you want to, but I'm personally always going to be against stuff like this that I don't think people can consent to. And that's my, thoughts, there. You know, I personally don't care for... I like what Aristotle once says. He says, there are countless pastors and priests that have sexually molested kids. And I said, that's bad as well. But are they openly trying to normalize their attraction to children like this person is doing? And ultimately, I think increasingly you're seeing maps use the language of social justice to try and normalize their pedophilia. And that's not something that I personally think we should be supporting as libertarian. And that's what my thoughts on that issue. You know, libertarians are say, do whatever you want. But, you know, it's as long as you're not hurting anyone else. And I think, you know, if you think you can consent to sex with a 5-year-old, I think that's personally hurting someone else. And that's my thoughts on that issue. You know, a lot of people here are calling me a bigot by saying, you know, I'm pretty much saying, if you are a pedophile, please keep that shit to yourself and don't try and normalize it. No wonder the word bigot has lost all meaning. And that's my thoughts there. Then we have Adam Sandler could see it coming in anger management from Chad Muffin, and that's a cross post from the shitposting subreddit. And I said, LOL, social media in a nutshell. People are always looking for ways to be angry and go after you. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Ron DeSantis signs Florida bill limiting how close bystanders can get to police from Reason.com. And that's by Baton 13. And I said, stupid law, but I do think you should respect other people's personal space. You know, I do think it's best to stay with the distance away from cops unless you absolutely need them, especially since they have the force of the state on their side and can do whatever they want with it. And that's my thoughts there. You know, I personally don't think we should legislate this into a law, but I do think it's a good advice to stay away from cops, especially if they're in an active combat situation. And that's my thoughts there. Then we have DeSantis signs bill banning heat protection laws for outdoor workers from WFLA.com by Baton 13, and they added the party of small local government. And I said, I think the libertarian position is that companies should provide heat protection, but that they shouldn't be forced by the state to do so. You know, corporate authoritarianism is still not an excuse for state authoritarianism, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have top IDF commander in aid strike wanted to block humanitarian supplies into Gaza from telegraph.co.uk by Swan Panky Dan. I definitely would agree that's not very nice. You know, you should always let people get humanitarian supplies, even if a package accidentally lands on someone and kills them. I mean, that's happened with the U.S. recently when they've been having so much aid. It's been killing some people because it's fallen on them and it's so heavy they can't get back up. And so, yeah, that's why I definitely would disagree with the IDF commander here. We need to provide humanitarian aid to people, even if some people in that area might be attacking the other people. And that's my thoughts there. Then we have New Rule Woe Canada from Bill Maher on YouTube, and I posted that, and I said, good segment from Maher. All too often, people on the left go, I have the morally correct position, so I must be right, as a means to shut down any dissent whatsoever, and I'm glad people are starting to push back against that. You know, you increasingly can't question anything that the left deems to be morally correct. Look at the examples that Mark gives in the video in regards to the Canadian teachers, the massive fake breasts, or puberty blockers for third graders. And that's my thoughts there, you know. You can justify whatever you want and consider whatever you want to be morally correct. With that being said, you know, that doesn't mean you win all the arguments just because you think you're morally correct. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have South Dakota House Republicans show support for child marriage by killing bipartisan bill in GOP-dominated panel, the South Dakota Standard. And that's from SCStandardNow.com by Strauss Superman. They said, you such JFMV 763, that's me. We comment here that the GOP supports child marriage and rape. Thanks. And I said, you only care because they're out group. If they were Dems, you wouldn't care. You know, fuck the GOP members for supporting this shit, but most people of the subreddit, and most people in general these days, it seems the age of social media, just deflect when it's the in-group doing it, though. You know, if they were Dems, they wouldn't care, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have America should follow England's lead on transgender care for kids from Lemon Line Lake, and they posted from a letter editorial in The Economist. Calm discussion of transgender medicine are rare. There are a few other areas of healthcare where professionals are afraid to openly discuss their views, argues Hilary Cass, a British doctor. On April 9th, he published a 388-page report commissioned by England's National Health Service, assessing that evidence for and against treatments for children who identify as transgender. The treatments at issue include puberty blockers, sex hormones, and rarely surgery. There is not a reliable evidence base to show that the benefits of offering such treatments to children outweigh the harms, says the Cass review. Many studies have been published, but they are often of poor quality. Some draw conclusions from tiny samples. Some lack control groups, so that outcomes for patients receiving treatment are not compared with outcomes for those who do not. Far too little effort is made to observe long-term effects. Some clinics have even resisted attempts to gather such data. In the rich world, approaches to transgender care for children now fall into three broad categories: laissez faire, draconian, and cautious. The laissez-faire approach, from common in blue states in America, argues that if children identify as the opposite gender and desperately want to adjust their bodies to align with that feeling, it should be allowed to do so. The draconian approach is that such treatments should simply be banned. This is common in red American states, where some politicians stir up antipathy toward transgender people to win votes. Some states combine bans on treatment with harsh penalties for doctors who offer it. The cautious approach, which informs policy in Denmark, Finland, Norway, Sweden, and now England, stresses that more evidence is needed. No one is sure why the number of children who identify as transgender has exploded in the past decade. Before giving drugs which can make them permanently sterile and unable to experience an orgasm, medics should explore other interventions. Many trans-identifying children are on the autism spectrum. Many suffer from depression and should be offered counseling. Many eventually desist, sometimes realizing that they are gay, not trans. Health providers should not rush into the invasive treatments even if the child demands them. As the Economist has argued before, the cautious approach is the wisest. Transgender people should always be treated with respect and kindness, and adults should be free to make their own decisions about their bodies. But as Dr. Cass concludes, it is essential to guard against the creep of unproven approaches in clinical practice. This may be hard in an area that has been so politically contentious. It may also be harder in health systems where private doctors are paid for each intervention, and there is also an incentive to give patients what they ask for. Nevertheless, it is the responsibility of medical authorities to offer treatments based on solid evidence. And my response to that was, I don't think this will go over too well here. Most of Reddit really hates when you question anything related to transgenderism. And that's what we were kind of talking about the Bill Maher post. They deem being transgender is morally correct, so you're not allowed to question anything as long as it supports transgenderism in these days, it seems. And that's my thoughts there. Then we have Jimmy gets censorship and hate speech. Be like Jim, and that's a post from Chad Muffin. It's a South Park clip uploaded by Emo Z Gamer on YouTube, and I said I personally don't use. It was him using the PC principal character was getting offended by the Jimmy character. He said, you can't use words like the R word in your paper, and Jimmy says, well, that's like, I use whatever words I want, it's the free press. And I said, I personally don't use the R word in any other words I consider to be overly offensive, but they do all fall under free speech, just like every other word. And I think that's why it's important we support all words, even words that we don't like. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And we have, why are my groceries so expensive? From postimage.cc from C3 Prio Leader. And it's a picture of, since 2020, the U.S. has printed nearly 80% of all U.S. dollars in circulation. To put that in perspective, at the start of 2020, we had 4 trillion, around 4 trillion circulation. Now that there is nearly 19 trillion circulation, a 35% jump in 3 years, August 27th, 2023. And I said, corporate greed, obviously, sarcasm. A lot of people unironically believe it, sadly. And, I definitely think if they just stop printing money, they could make the inflation rate go down like they did in Argentina, but sadly, that doesn't seem to be the case here. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Iran launches drone attacks against Israel from Politico, and I posted that, and I said, nothing ever happens. I think this is just theater, this is just for show. Maybe if Iran and Israel will get into war, and the U.S., that's another proxy war the U.S. gets involved in, like Russia-Ukraine, but I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. Maybe, we'll have to see. I don't know if Iran will has the capability to do anything right now, especially since they didn't do anything after Soleimani got assassinated, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have a decades-long burger joint closed after being sued over wheelchair activists, saying its landlord wouldn't pay for a ramp, from BusinessInsider.com by Ninja Lover, and I said, sad, just go show that we give the government too much power to regulate individual businesses. I'm disabled myself. You can't force everyone to comply with every single one of your needs all the time. I think if companies want to provide accommodations, they should be able to. I don't think they should be forced to do so if they don't have the resources to do so. And that's my thoughts there. Then we have at Moicano UFC says it best. If you love this country, read Ludwig von Mises and learn Austrian economics from Brittany Kosten on Twitter. And I posted that, and I said, seems like Moicano would be a better POTUS than all the recent ones. Sadly, he's Brazilian, so I don't think he's going to be able to serve. Then we have, who do you trust more to keep the U.S. out of World War III from Dylan Allman on Twitter, and that's a picture of Trump, RFK Jr., and Biden. I said, none of those guys. Ultimately, I think the LP candidate will probably be the best option, even if they won't win. But, yeah, that's who I'll probably go for, the LP Libertarian Party candidate. But, yeah, I definitely think we'll probably get World War III regardless at this point. It seems like the war hawks want war with Russia, China, and Iran too badly to not go for a event, and that's my thoughts there. And I think we're going to wrap up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.